Hello everyone, welcome to the first part of the final Shed NV podcast of the season. Part 2 will have a very special guest who I'm sure you probably might have a sneaky suspicion who it might be. But we're going to do our sort of season roundup the last game of the season, all the celebrations if we can remember them, which might be a great difficulty. And yeah, just sort of wrap everything up for the season. It'll be probably, what's this kind of our first full season? Doing an actual filmed non-Zoom, non-online podcast. So yeah, I think it's gone alright. We'll work Shed schedule sometimes make it a wee bit difficult to get one penciled in, but yeah, I suppose firstly obviously we'll have to look back to Saturday. I think without a shadow of a doubt one of the best days in, well it's certainly probably the best day in the club's history, or the recent club's history if you like. It's definitely one of the best days that I can remember. Not that I can remember much about it, but I remember, in terms of the performance, the result, then getting the trophy, and just the support was just beyond phenomenal. We'll also touch on the Irish Cup game as well. We haven't done a podcast in a wee while, so given the fact that you were sunning yourself whilst drinking copious amounts of lager in Benidorm on your mate's stag do, it's probably best that if I run through the actual game itself.
You took the game. No, I was watching from a distance obviously, and keeping up to date with it, and we celebrated the title out there. It was just a shame not being here.
At 28 minutes past 4 in Saturday, so bear in mind that's about 15 to 20 minutes still to go in the match. Ali sent me a WhatsApp video of the boys opening champagne and celebrating that title win in Benidorm. So
I think Ali were 10-1 down at that point. I thought it's over.
So you're home and host here.
I'm still it could still happen, but we just enjoyed it.
It was I remember I was talking to Darren on Friday night, and we were looking at he says it's going to be a bit of a washout tomorrow in terms of the weather, and it was a glorious days on Thursday and Friday. I was really disappointing that it's going to rain. I tell you what though, for wanting to sound like a cliche, or pardon the pun, it didn't dampen the spirits of anybody on Saturday. Big crowd down. We were 2-0 up at half time. James Thielen scored two good goals just before the break. Probably could have been 3 or 4 at half time, for being honest. Lorcan Ford hit the post when it was 0-0, with one incident you've probably seen in the highlights of, I think Philly Donnelly had 2 shots blocked, and then John McGovern shot blocked, all pretty much in the same move. Once the first goal went in, it was sort of again, pardon the watery rain pun, the floodgates opened. But yeah, and then the second half was just Darren emptied the bench, brought Niall Brady on for Stephen Maguire to give him a run out. Brought on Oran Casey, scored. Brian Healy got himself a goal, which was great for him. Mark Kelly may well be his last time in a Uri shirt. Hopefully it's not, but may well be. Scored and celebrated with getting up on the wall in front of the fans. And I've never seen a guy who didn't have any probably affinity with the club before he came down. Just how happy that man was afterwards. If anybody's met Mark, they'll know what a gentleman he is. And he was the last player out of all the celebrations on the pitch. He was the last player I got to hug, and I swear to God, he nearly squeezed me to death. He's a big fella, but he was so happy, as were all the boys.
I was delighted to see Mark scoring though. I was delighted for him. He's popped up with some big goals, as we've named this year, big goal Mark Kelly. But I was delighted to see him get one on the final day. And I mean,
he's definitely a fan's favourite. The players like him, the supporters like him. But I mean, it was great to see for everybody. You could see the sort of emotion going about the place. It was strange. It was an unusual situation maybe to be in, because you didn't know. The league was essentially won, but it wasn't won. So it was to confirm it, setting aside, forgetting about the Anna result, which was a complete anomaly, and obviously they had their reasons for playing a weak side against Loughgall, but for us to go and finish it off in comprehensive fashion, they ended up winning the league by 6 points. We scored 6 goals. They're front of a big crowd. The players, just all celebrating when they scored with the fans, and then getting the presentation done. The only cock up in the presentation was me trying to do the mic on the pitch, and it didn't work. It was one of these sort of scenarios. So yeah, thanks to Kevin Lyons for stepping in and doing his bit there. Daniel Murphy and Archie Cunningham come on and they got the chance to lift the trophy. And then I just remember looking around to the shed end, and just when they let everybody on the pitch, and it was just like, it's been obviously the last time I can remember that type of sort of scenario was the Carrick playoff game, but to see out the showground and see so many, to be quite honest, young people that probably weren't there in 2018 but are now proper supporters there. There's a brilliant photo. I mean, there's so many good photos from Saturday between Brenton Monaghan and Aidan Carroll. There's a particularly good one of Aidan's where Darren's just coming down and from behind Darren, and he's celebrating, and just the emotion and the different sort of celebrations in the supporters' faces, and everybody's packed on top of each other, and it's just it sums up this season for me. You know, after just to hark back very briefly to the Ballymena game, the Irish Cup, and I was in sort of work mode that night because I was doing a match report, and I texted you when I came back, and he says, can you stick a message into the supporters WhatsApp group, because I genuinely sitting in the middle of the stand and hearing the supporters just non-stop singing for 96, 97 minutes, and then coming back once I sort of switched out of work mode and actually watched back some of the highlights, I'll be honest with you, I get really, really emotional, because we're just going, you know, to see and to hear that level of support for the club was just absolutely
it was
brilliant.
A phenomenal night. I mean, Tuesday night, had Tuesday night not happened, I think I would have come home on Saturday, but I went away thinking I've just witnessed something I'd never witnessed before. It was absolutely amazing. The atmosphere, the singing, the place was bouncing, and even though we got beat, you know, the Ballymena fans and players were all clapping us at the very end. You know, it's just that passion that's grown this season. I was so proud of everybody for it.
I think that sort of played a part then in sort of Saturday's celebrations, because, you know, those that might have gone to the Irish Cup semi-final in, you know, maybe one of their few games this season, maybe their first game this season, wanted to come back down and sort of probably be a part of that atmosphere again, knowing it was going to be a celebratory sort of party atmosphere, I feel like, and it was just brilliant to see just how happy the players were, and to see how tight knit this group is. It was just, you know, you couldn't sort of, if you had envisaged that at the start of the season, I don't think you can even envisage it the way it panned out, and just how sort of delirious people were. I remember doing an interview with Darren at the start of the season, and I think I probably said this before, that is it a failure if we don't win the league this season? I think I don't know whether I said it, is it a failure if we don't get promoted, or is it a failure if we don't win the league? But he just said absolutely, 100%, and he was totally unequivocal about it, and it's the first time he's probably been that open and honest, because he says, the squad we have, he says, if we don't get promoted, then there's something wrong. And to be honest with you, I think if we hadn't got promoted, it probably might have been, Darren might have maybe departed the scene sort of gracefully. Now it's, you know, the other side, it's taking the team back to the Premiership. Will hopefully keep a hold of the vast majority, if not all, of this current squad, and then add to it. And I'll be honest, we're going back into the Premiership next season. Whilst the Premiership has massively improved in the 4 years that we haven't been in it, or 3 years, sorry, I think we've improved. I think we've probably a better squad now, before we even add to it. So, you know, we'll obviously hopefully have learnt from, you know, maybe mistakes that were made the last time, but yeah, it was just good. And a couple of days celebrating were definitely worth the hangover.
Yeah, I was glad I got back on. I can't even think of the days right now. Sunday. I got back on Sunday and literally got to the house. I haven't seen my wife in a week because she was away. I was away at the same time. Got a shower and she was raging, but we went up to Dan's and trainers just to join the party, and it was just fantastic to see it in the town. And I think we've talked about this all season, but the buy-in from the city itself is class. I mean, you think back to, it's coming up for 10 years from the club went bust, and what the club has achieved in that time. And of course we got the Premiership a few years ago, and I think that kind of happened, it's almost by accident. We just had a run and all of a sudden we were there. This season the expectation has been there, but not only expectation but the demand to win the title, and that brings with it such a pressure that we've touched on. And you know, the run in the games post split were difficult for us. Teams had a lot to play for, and a couple of times we could have had it wrapped up. We didn't, but it's worked out really well. I think getting the title in the last game of the season. Now selfishly I kind of wanted it won by Ballymallard so I could enjoy the celebrations, but you know, I went away last week just knowing that, just happy that the title was won. You know, I had no fear of missing out or anything. I was delighted for everybody. And you know, one thing that Engine texted me last week, he's like, I'm delighted for the boys that have been there through thick and thin. You know, like, because they remember going to, I suppose, boys like travelling away those first few days to parks up in like all over the country, no matter where it was. 14, 15 boys maybe on the wee bus, and then all of a sudden it's grown to what it is. And there's a belief now, and young ones are coming through. I think it'd be great is to try to keep them integrated in the club and let them be the next generation that kind of spread that love and passion for local football. I think that's a big thing maybe as well. We're coming off of a year, 2 years of COVID. Last year we had no football to enjoy. It was a tough year, but it's almost made football more appreciated, and the fans have definitely got more involved in football across the board, not just in our league. But I think locally they realised, I can get that passion by coming down to the showgrounds, and it's no longer viewed as like it's the shit alternative to sitting at home. It's like I can actually be involved in something special. So it's been class. I think one thing to really look at is, as great as the players have done on the pitch and the staff, a massive thank you to all the volunteers this year as well, because without these people, this doesn't happen. We have nobody to open gates for fans to come in. We've got nobody selling tickets, all those sorts of things. They've done an amazing job this year. And personally, from my end of things, like Stephen, Decky and Marty for running the fans bus this season, they've been amazing, and they haven't turned anybody away. It's been super. So all the volunteers have been amazing, from Drew on the gates to doing the security, all those people, there's too many to count. Mandy doing the burgers every week, boys doing the bar. Without them this club doesn't function. So I think they could take great enjoyment in sitting back and knowing that they've played their part in this season.
I think even just to expand on that, obviously the higher you get and the more success you have and the more people you have come through the gates, the more volunteers you need. And I think we've even seen probably an uptake in people sort of getting involved and doing stuff. Whether it doesn't matter how small it is, everybody's sort of a cog in the machine, if you like. And that's probably going to need to be even increased going forward, particularly when we're in the Premiership. But there is that sort of that desire to do that, and as you said, it doesn't run. A lot of people probably that come down on a Saturday, whether it's the young lads that are standing in the shed end or whether it's the people that have been here for 40, 50 years, probably maybe aren't fully aware of what goes on and the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes just to put a match on. Whether it's home or away, and whether people that are down here maybe 3, 4, 5 nights a week, whenever there's nobody else here and doing stuff and painting and things like that, everybody, it's as much for them. And I think probably the engine has probably touched on that over the last couple of weeks, where if there's one person knows what this club is about and what it entails and how much it means to people and how important those volunteers are, it's him, because he's been down here since he was about 16, 17, maybe even younger. Obviously a couple of years away at one point, but I mean, he's nearly like the playing version of those sort of volunteers and those supporters. Like he's like the representative, if you like, because I think he'd love that, because he sort of embodies what this club's about. I mean, but there's literally nobody that's been in the squad this season that you can turn out and say you can criticise. You can turn out and say, well, he didn't really contribute. And I mean, I'm including the likes of Mark Hughes, obviously. And Mark as well, because Mark handed over that captaincy when he left, and it just spurred a thought from Mark, because he's done so much for this club as well. And I mean, it's it's as much this sort of trophy title wins as much for him. Like Sammy McLeveen, who played his part earlier in the season. It's everybody has who's kicked the ball. Like I did joke with about 20 minutes to go on Saturday. We also had a list of all the players that were having to be called out, and this was obviously Lewis McKeown, Donald Scullion, Peter McParlin, Jack McGill, and to make sure they get into the change rooms to get changed into their kit. And I was like, they're all their tracks, and I was like, you getting changed into your kit? And he was like, oh, aye. And I was like, 4 John Terrys. And then Dingo was obviously injured. Dingo picked up a knock in training on Thursday night. I said, you getting changed? He goes, full shin guards the whole lot. But it's like they're all just buzzing. And again, it doesn't matter whether you played 1 minute or you played every game this season. So you've contributed. I think another guy who needs to be mentioned is Mark Trainer. The trainer's bar at Dan's up in Camlet. He's looked after sort of whether it's players, supporters, whenever we've gone out for a beer. Looked after us with food and on Sunday when it was badly required. But there was one comment that actually Engine put on Mark's Facebook. Mark was a photograph with, I think, the two of them, and Mark with Engine's medal sort of in his teeth. He was just like, Engine just wrote back. He says that was as much for you as it was for the rest of us. He says we won this as a team.
Mm-hmm.
As in including everybody who on off the pitch. And like, let's be quite blunt here. If it wasn't for guys like Mark Trainer and it wasn't for other sponsors getting involved and the work that the likes of Sparky goes out and gets these sponsors and other people who've brought in sponsorship as well, this club doesn't function, it doesn't exist. And so you're relying on the goodwill and then the efforts of the people around here. So look, everybody has a role to play. That role's going to get only bigger next season. Like,
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think I said to you the comment that really stuck out for me this week on Facebook was Engine put up the photograph of him with the trophy, and Dorothy wrote underneath it saying, I remember you coming through the gates as a child, basically, and now to see you as captain bringing us back to the Premiership just made her so emotional. And for me that was a comment that really stood out this week. I just thought that's great. Like Dorothy will tell you, this club is everything to her, so for her to actually see that journey, I think is amazing when you're talking about people who have been here for those 20 years.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, like, I think everybody had a really good celebration over the last couple of days. We've obviously got the awards night coming up, which tickets are on sale on the 21st of May in the Canal Court. I think that's going to be one of the biggest ones we'll ever have. And it's the night probably when, yes, the players get recognised and the management and all the youth players, but it's a night when other people sort of get their award and get their recognition, particularly in front of a big group. And these aren't people that ask for recognition or that want it or even need it, but they get recognised in front of people. And the likes of Dorothy's one of those people. Like, you know what I mean? She does so much for the club. So it's great that it's just a whole. We're probably getting very how
it is, but it is a special club down here. I think definitely, and like it's been a difficult year for my family, like away from football.
Yeah.
And like I remember, like we've been through a lot, but coming down one night after a certain thing, everybody was just supportive and helpful. And I said to Louise, like, I've never, you go down and everybody's like asking about you. To have that community spirit at the heart of a football club, that means more than winning anything.
Yeah.
Because if you have good people and a good ethos at the heart of the club, it'll last, and it'll survive. And I think this is exactly what everybody has bought into, and that's the reason I think we're back in the Premiership. Those little bits have all built up and helped.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, even like, my dad. I'm sure everybody knows. I'm sure everybody knows my dad, both inside and outside the club. Now, like him standing, he wanted a photograph. There was 7 McCulloughs at the Ballinamalloch game, and he wanted to get a photograph after the match on the provision that we had won the league that day, and obviously we didn't. So he stood for like 45 minutes on the pitch after the game and kept all the McCulloughs in one group to make sure we got a photo with the trophy, because there was just a queue of people looking at the photograph taken with the trophy. And look, I took a piss at the time going, I don't want to be associated with you lot, bunch of McCulloughs, but obviously I'm joking, but it was nice. It'll be a nice memory to have when you look back on, like, what I mean. And there's so many families and relations and friends that have either from outside, they've known each other from outside of football, or predominantly have probably become friends through the football club. Do you know what I mean? And that's telling as well. I don't think we'll ever get too big where you don't know the vast majority of the people in your support. Yeah. But you'll get big enough where it's all one big family, and we've hundred. Let's be honest, we're probably unlikely to ever have thousands going to Newry supporters going to the game, but you never know. But it's having that sort of hundreds where you go, oh, what's crack, you're constantly walking past saying hello to everybody, So it was great. You got to see. I'm happy to give Mo Ruddy a shout out. I know he watches the podcast. Mo has been a big supporter for years. I mean, most people probably know Mo. He's been living over in Scotland for the last few years. He flew home for the game on Saturday, and we were talking to him in the social club after the game, and he hasn't been maybe back in 3 or 4 years, maybe longer, since we were last in the Premiership, and he's been watching from afar and seeing how much the club has grown, and but he actually said to me, he says, I can't believe even just to see it, and even to see a crowd like that in the social club afterwards and celebrating and stuff. He says it was just, he couldn't believe it, so it's good that you're seeing guys that are still have a love for the club from a distance, and it's obviously not just as easy for him to drop down to the showgrounds anytime, so great. I got Johnny Irwin again, not rubber because he was plastered. The other one. Johnny came down. Haven't seen him in a while. People like that have been supporters of the club, always will be supporters of the club, but are there, and they're there for the big occasions. Plus, it's just such a massive range of backgrounds and people and different sides of the community, and people that you probably wouldn't have maybe might not necessarily have the opportunity to be sort of mates with or whatever, given the way we can be in this country sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's not what this club's about. It's all encompassing.
It's the leveler, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant. Like, it's all you're coming together and you're all supporting your eye. Like, so. Aye, that's good. That was our emotional rant. If he's wanting, I hope I'm breathing tears now.
Well, I suppose closing out on this and not wanting it to be a Lord of the Rings epic, but let's just have a quick look. I mean, we've talked about this as well, but your moment of the season, what would you say? I mean, I was trying to think of this earlier, and I've got about 14 of them, but yeah, the one really sticks out. Probably
the one that immediately sticks out to me is actually the Ballymallard away when we won 2-0, and when Dingo scored the free kick and then John McGovern scored the header, because that was a big result. That essentially not put them out, put up Ballymallard in the title race, but it certainly didn't do them any favours. And there was just that smaller group of supporters there, and it was a loud and vociferous group, and the players just come over. That in a probably wider context, the players celebrating with the fans with almost every goal that they scored this season, be it home or away, is a big thing for me.
Apart from Fra Brennan.
Oh yeah, Fra ran the wrong direction at no time, but we'll let him off it. But having that connection, it's more sort of maybe not a specific moment, but just all those moments, like the Ballyclare obviously as well. The second half of that game, it's probably easier to remember the latter games of the season than maybe is earlier in the campaign, but having that connection between the players and and the supporters and the management and the supporters, and having the players saying to you, and even Darren and Damien McCarry said to me numerous occasions, going like, fans are unbelievable, and meaning it. Do you know what I mean? It's not just paying lip service to them. The fans for me have made this season, and the way the players recognise that. I don't think you certainly don't see any club in the championship, and you don't. I'd be honest with you, I don't think you see as many clubs in the Premiership that have that connection. So that to me, but Ballymallard probably away, and just the celebration of everybody jumping on top of each other and just limbs everywhere. I think. So go on, what was yours?
Well, I was trying to think the same. I was thinking, there's big moments. Philly Donnelly turned it on against Harland and Wolf at the end of the season there. Decky's performance in the second half against Ballyclare. Yeah. But when I think back to it, I think all of those moments stem from Queen's away, which was 6 games into the season or 7 games into the season. But for me, that was the moment that put us out in front that day. But it was a marker of being like, okay, we're going to win this league, and it was a massive statement. But not only just for what it meant in the league table, but actually for what it meant to the fans that day. I think the connection between the fans and players really, that was like the big bang moment.
Yeah,
because it was massive, and the moment of the season essentially is Stephen Maguire's save in that game, because they equalised 1-1. Ards are top of the league. All of a sudden, do they stay in front? Who knows?
And we were playing Ards the following week.
We played Ards the following week, so who knows how the season would have turned out had they equalised. Because the season hinges on moments like that, and when it comes down to 3 games going into the 3 points going into the last game, you think of every draw, every win that you have, and how important they all were at the end of the season. But for me, that was the moment. Maguire's save. Lawless scores at the other end, the crowd goes nuts, and it was kind of like, okay, we're onto something here. So for me, that was a big bang moment. It's where it kind of gave life to all of this, the passion that was coming for this season. I think, and you said that the players celebrating with the fans, that was massive that day. So that's the one that sticks with me.
And I mean, let us know what your moment was this season, whether it's in the comments on YouTube, whether it's on our social media. We'll be really interested to hear, because I'm sure everybody has. They might have a lot of similar moments, but they'll have their own unique experience of what they felt like in that particular moment. So let us know what your thoughts are, because it'd be really interested to hear, because the club's such a big support, and everybody's going to have that sort of unique sort of take on the same thing, if that makes any sense. So I mean, it was brilliant to see everybody. I remember Darren on Saturday. Darren had got Daniel Murphy and Archie Cunningham out to lift the trophy after Engine had lifted it. Archie was still in the middle of it, and then they let the supporters come on from behind from the shed in here, and it was just a stream of people going. I was like, oh shit! And Archie's mum said, "Couldn't you go and lift him out of there because he was going to be stuck right in the middle of it?" And then I lifted Archie back out, and he was like, I think he was a bit annoyed that he wasn't in the middle of celebration, so lifted him up and jumping, throwing him about in the middle of celebration. And he was just delighted, and then he beat Ernie Campbell again in an arm wrestle. But things like that, you know what I mean, that just came from Archie being featured in the New Reporter at the start of the season, and Darren asking me about him, and we contacting Dee and Debbie and asked them, do you want to bring him down for a game? And he's just become a massive supporter, and he's like such a popular fella anyway, because he's such a good kid. But getting him down, you know, his mum and dad, I think, bought season tickets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, wee things.
I never missed a game, home or away.
Yeah, so stuff like that. You know, they just sort of see those people, you know, just absolutely delighted. Obviously Daniel's been a mainstay down here for years. You know, man can't hide his happiness. Sort of at us winning. Well, we don't win trophies that often. So actually winning a trophy, that was another big thing for me. You didn't want to go up, like you wanted to go up whatever way you could, but to win a trophy. I mean, the last time we won a league anyway was Middlesbrough Intermediate A.
Yeah.
You know, so to win the second top league in the country, and by 6 points in the end, and to be quite frank, it could have been by more. That's a big thing. And it's a bit of a statement, and to go and do it 6-1 the final day of the season is another statement. And it's just going, right, okay.
But can I also just say there that I was right? Can we go back to the first podcast of the season where I said that we'd walk the league?
Are you going to add this clip in?
I got to put it in right now. But everybody slagged me throughout the season, no matter where I went. It's like, oh, we're going to walk it. We walked the league, and I know it came down to points, and I know it came down to the last day, but technically we walked this league. We were behind once from November, and that was because Anna had 2 games in hand on us. We walked the league. I was 100% right, and I hope I get the clairvoyant statue or like presentation from Sparky on the awards night for predicting it. Well, because I took some slagging for it, and I said if we won the league I was going to have a t-shirt. I didn't have time to make it, but I was right.
Yeah, I'll give you that to an extent. I'm not convinced that we walked it, but yeah.
Well, we should have.
Yeah, we should have something. We can't walk something by winning it in the last day, really.
We should have.
But I'll let. Yeah, well, look, you know. We'll give you that one. It was a bold statement to make at the start. I think it was in our very first podcast of the season.
Yeah. I think after 3 games.
Yeah. So, you know, to be fair, I'll let you off that one. You know.
But look, it's been a great season, and for us and our end of things, it's been amazing to I suppose keep this podcast going. As you said, it gets a little bit more difficult as the season progresses and life gets in the way. We've got both very demanding jobs which require a lot of time, and especially weekend work. And I've missed a few more games than I would have liked this year, just through no fault of my own. But to keep the podcast running, and I suppose keep the fans engaged and kind of get your views across, has been brilliant. And I think the biggest compliment that somebody said to me recently was that the fans feel like they know the players better through the podcast. So, you know, hopefully we've played our part this season. I think we've brought 32 videos throughout the course of the season, which is pretty impressive. So we hope to continue it next year when we're up in the Premiership. But it's been great, and thanks so much for the engagement throughout the year.
And if anybody wants to sponsor us, that'd be fantastic. Yeah. I'm only joking, but I don't need sponsorship, but if anybody wants to jump on, that's grand. But yeah, no, just to add to that, I mean, look, we as I repeatedly say, we're the most niche podcast in the world, because, you know, let's be honest, you know, it's really, this is for Newry City supporters. It's not for us. It's not for, you know, anybody can watch it obviously, but, you know, this is for Newry supporters because we care about the club, and because we want, you know, to hopefully give more of an insight into the club for the people that come down and spend their hard-earned money and follow the club home and away. So it's for you guys. So keep spreading the word. We've touched on it before. The other sort of great thing that's happened this season, the Newry City Football Memories page on Facebook that John McClellan set up, is absolutely, it's going from strength to strength. The detail it has in it is just phenomenal. I think it deserves an awful lot of recognition, and there's things like that maybe go unnoticed by a lot of people, but really make a big difference in getting people engaging, people in the club, and so on, what the club's about and how much it means to as many people. So, like, between what he's doing and between what we're doing, feel free to fire some of your ideas. If you just want us to change stuff up, or you want us to do something different, or you want us to speak to some different people, as Ali says, hopefully we will keep this going for next season, and we might have before the start of the season, we might have a a sort of surprise, you know, a different version of the podcast. Ali's looking at me going, what are you talking about? Well, we've got a plan in the pipeline that hopefully we can do something that can really get in something in front of an audience. Look, but once we get everything finalised for the start of the Premiership season, then we'll let you know what the crack is with that. But thank you, all 24 of you that watch the podcast.
Stephen Beattie and James Winton.
But yeah, no, it's been good fun sitting doing this. We do it because it's, you know, it's a labour of love. We don't do it for any benefit of our own. It's good fun. Hopefully people enjoy it, and if you don't, then don't watch it. But yeah, stick at it, and thanks for all your support. See you soon.
Have a good summer.
Yeah, have a good summer. See you soon.